Hello friend, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Becky if you're new. Today we have 6 different Christmas cookies we're gonna be making today. We will see together whether I will accomplish all 6 of them. My husband is having a Christmas party at his work, and I had so much fun doing the Halloween cookies and volunteering to do all the desserts for his party. I thought I would go ahead and volunteer myself to do the cookies for his Christmas party, and I'm really looking forward to it. I, this morning, early, put some butter in my oven with the oven light on to come to room temperature because I keep my butter in the freezer. And normally, this is perfect, that gets my butter perfect, but I am starting about 3 hours later today than I was anticipating to get started on these cookies. And my butter was almost melted in the oven, so don't leave it in there that long. Thankfully, it was in the box, so it didn't make a mess in my oven. So I am going to just soften in the microwave a couple sticks of butter, 8 sticks of butter to be exact. I don't know exactly how many sticks we are going to be using for today's recipes, so I figured I might as well get a lot of it to room temperature. I ran out of my homemade vanilla in my bottle here, so we need to go ahead and fill that up because I know with today's recipes we will go through a lot of vanilla. Now these are all, not all new, but a lot of these cookie recipes are new to me. We are going to make eggnog, peppermint, Andes mint, chocolate chipless chocolate chip cookies that I'm going to decorate with white chocolate, so there is going to be chocolate in them. Soft and chewy sugar cookies that we're going to decorate with Christmas sprinkles, and giant chocolate chip cookies that we are going to decorate with Christmas M&Ms so that we can have them be nice and festive. I'm going to pull out my KitchenAid today because we are going to be whipping up a lot of cookies. Now, 2 of the chocolate recipes, or not chocolate recipes, I should say 2 of the cookie recipes have a chocolate base. The chocolate peppermint cookie and the Andes mint cookie have chocolate based cookies. So I'm going to start with the lighter color cookies and we'll work our way to the chocolate dough so that I don't have to wash my bowl out in between cookies. So let's start with the first one, which is eggnog. And I am going to weigh out all my flour today because I have found that is the key to getting really good cookies. I have been forcing myself to weigh flour, and it's really helping my cookies come out better. And I finally invested in my favorite scale. I can link this down below. We got this scale as a wedding gift, and I ruined it when we moved. I, on accident, put this in a box with some oil. My oil spilled in the move, and it ruined the controls on this scale. So I've been using another scale that doesn't work very well. And because I've proven to myself that I am going to use the scale, I went ahead and reinvested in this scale. This scale is amazing, and it will make me even want to use the scale and have better baked goods that much more. So it looks like this does come with a battery, which is good because I didn't even think that far through. So let me get the battery in here and then we can get going on these recipes. I will link all these recipes down below for you. I got the scale set up and I'm already really excited about it. So let's get the oven preheated to 350. Because we are going to be baking so many cookies today, I'm going to get both ovens preheating so that we can bake as many cookies at one time as possible. One thing that's really cool about this scale is it's got this portion that can come out. So if you've got a big bowl, you can pull that out, which is really nice. And we're going to go ahead and tare it, and we want grams. So we're going to weigh out the dry ingredients first for the eggnog cookie. So I'm going to put the bowl on here and I'm going to tare this. The first ingredient is 325 grams of all-purpose flour, and that was 324, so I almost got it exactly, and that's 325 right there. And I will need my KitchenAid bowl to cream the butter and sugar together, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer my flour into this bowl, and we're going to measure out our spices. That is a half a teaspoon of ginger, salt, clove, ginger, fresh nutmeg. The last dry ingredient is 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and my baking soda has a little bit of lumps in it. So what I like to do is take my baking soda and put it in this small sieve so that I can get out any potential lumps. You can already see there's a couple big ones. So we'll just do that like that. And then I'll mix all this together, and this is our dry mix. And then we do need to weigh out our sugar. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside. I'm gonna get this bowl back on here. It's already at 0 because I taired it earlier. We need to weigh out 207 grams of white sugar. We'll call that good. I'm already so excited I bought this scale because it is very responsive. My last scale that I had that I've been using and forcing myself to use so that I have the best cookie outcome is very slow and not very responsive. So I'm excited about this purchase. So now here we are going to add our butter so that we can cream our butter and sugar together. I have never made an eggnog cookie before. I don't know if that's something your family has at the holidays. I like eggnog. I love homemade eggnog. Oh my goodness. I do make that every year around this time. I haven't made it yet homemade, but I will soon. And this is the first time I came across an eggnog cookie. So we're gonna cream our sugar and butter together. I'm gonna go ahead and splash some vanilla. Oh, I'm making a mess. Par for the course. Maybe 2 splashes of vanilla. I did get my eggs out this morning as well so that they would come to room temperature. My chickens are not laying eggs right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just crack these right into the cookie dough. Now we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of eggnog. So we're getting that eggnog flavor not only from the spices we added, but actual eggnog. I'm gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl. It does say that this is gonna be a little bit of a sticky dough, and I could see why. And then we'll add our dry ingredients we mixed together earlier. Oh my goodness, that smells incredible. The ginger and the cinnamon and clove, and then fresh nutmeg. All right, I may have just tasted a little bit of that cookie dough by mistake, and that is pretty incredible. I'm gonna try to get as much of the goodness off this beater as I can. I think something boiled over in one of my ovens because it's getting a little smoky in here. So we are going to make these eggnog cookies just a little bit more festive. I've got just some sugar here. And all I'm gonna do to make them a little bit more special is we'll roll them in a little bit of sugar. Now this is some organic cane sugar, so it has a little bit of color to it, and I think that makes it really beautiful. Instead of it being stark white, it's kind of got a little bit of a gold tinge to it. So we're just gonna roll these out. No need to refrigerate this dough or anything like that, which I always love. If you don't have to take that step. And I love using a cookie scoop when it comes to making cookies. It just makes the process so much easier. This is almost like an eggnog snickerdoodle, but I guess it doesn't have any cream of tartar in it. So you're not gonna get that zing, but it's kind of like a sugar cookie with eggnog flavor. I think what I'm gonna do is go ahead and just scoop out all the cookie dough first, and then I'll roll it all into balls, and then we'll roll it in the sugar. These cookies not only are gonna be rolled in sugar, but we are gonna decorate them with white chocolate to make them even more beautiful. This recipe made exactly 24 cookies, which fits on my really large cookie sheets. I am gonna just push these down just a teeny bit, encourage a little bit of flattening. We're gonna get these in the oven. So I'm gonna put one set in this oven, and they need to bake for 9 to 11 minutes. And then this cookie sheet will get in this oven over here. I like to bake my cookies one sheet at a time when possible. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now since I happen to have the oven space. So I'm gonna set the timer for 9 minutes, and we should be able to get the next cookie made by the time these ones are done. These last few months, I've kind of been on a quest to learn to make cookies really well, because I feel like before I was never that excellent at it, and I've been researching and reading a ton of cookie recipes. And one thing I've come across a lot more lately is recipes calling for cornstarch, which I think is really interesting. So the next recipe we're gonna make, I just rinsed off my paddle attachment, and my bowl still has a little bit of the cookie dough in it, but that's totally fine, is chocolate chipless chocolate chip, well, it's I want to say chocolate chip cookies, but it's chocolate chipless cookies, and this has cornstarch in it, which I think is super interesting. Now, this recipe does not give me the weight for the flour, so I am going to have to measure this the standard American way with cups, but I am going to fluff my flour first, and this recipe calls for cornstarch, which I've been seeing, the more I've been researching cookie recipes, I've been seeing that more and more. So let's go ahead and get this cookie dough whisked together. This should come together pretty quickly. The eggnog recipe does need a frosting that we're gonna make to put on that's gonna have some eggnog in it as well. And this recipe, I'm gonna use white chocolate to pipe on a snowflake on it. So when we made the Halloween cookies, I used a chewy ginger cookie, and we piped with white chocolate. We piped on little spider webs. So this is what inspired me to do this. So you could even use that ginger cookie recipe and do the same design, but I thought it would be fun to try something new, which these cookies I saw on Instagram, and I just had to try them. So that's why we're using this recipe. And even though there's no chocolate in it, it's a flat cookie, so it'll be a good surface to decorate. So that is our brown sugar. And now we need to add some white sugar. And then we're gonna cream the sugars together with the butter. I just made my first mistake, and I was supposed to use melted butter. No big deal. I just checked my chocolate chip cookie recipe, and I can salvage this butter and sugar by making the chocolate chip cookies now with our little secret ingredient that's gonna make these festive. So I just added an extra stick of butter, and now I need to do the math and make sure I add the additional white sugar and brown sugar. So I added 3/4 cup of brown sugar in here, and this needs a total of 1 1/4 cup. So let's see if I can do my math correctly here. We'll add a 1/2 cup of that. So now we have the proper amount of brown sugar, and then now we need to add some additional white sugar, I believe. Yes, an additional 1/2 cup. Okay, for a second there, I was panicking, thinking, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do with this sugar and butter? I don't want to waste these precious ingredients. So now we are going to just adapt and overcome. Whisk that together. This recipe is one where I can weigh out the flour. So now I'm gonna go ahead and weigh the dry ingredients into this bowl. Oh, that's our timer. Okay, these are definitely done. I'm gonna get these out of the oven. Oh, yep, these ones are done too. So we're gonna let those finish cooking on the cookie sheets. So now I'm gonna go ahead, oh, I need to tare my bowl. We're gonna measure out our flour, which is 380 grams. Right there on the nose. Baking soda, salt, mix that together. Now we're gonna add our eggs. Get our flour mixture in there. 3 out of the 6 recipes we're making are just inherently holiday flavored or themed. Eggnog, the peppermint ones, and the Andes mince ones. They kind of all scream holiday. The other three we're making don't scream holiday, but we are gonna make them holiday. So if you have your favorite chocolate chip recipe, switch out the chocolate chips for M&Ms, which is what I'm doing. You could do this with any holiday M&Ms, whether it's Easter or the Halloween ones that I made. And then the sugar cookies, I'm gonna show you how we're going to have really festive sugar cookies without having to roll out and frost a bunch of sugar cookies. And then just like with the chocolate-less, I don't know why that's such a tongue twister for me, chocolate-less cookies. I want to say chocolate-less chocolate chip cookies. We're going to decorate them for the season, even though they're inherently not holiday cookies. Okay, so we've got our cookie dough here. I love making cookies like this because they are so easy to have them be festive. They're no extra work. The Andes ones and the peppermint ones are going to be a little bit more work, just the way they are, but this way we can have some super, super easy cookies and some that are going to be fun to decorate, but they inherently take a little bit more time, and this didn't take any extra time to make this recipe. So now we can go ahead and get these rolled out. I did save some of the M&Ms so we can decorate the top of these cookies with these M&Ms. I need these cookie sheets though first before I can do that. Oop, these are still a little warm. So we're gonna get these cookies on this cooling rack. So this is very straightforward. I'm gonna scoop these out, and then I'm going to decorate the top of each one of these cookies with 3 or 4 M&Ms. One of Josh and I's favorite cookies of all time is a chewy ginger cookie, kind of like a molasses spiced cookie. And we also love that with chocolate chips. And this time of year, a great way to make that festive is to put in chocolate M&Ms. I did that last year, so I wanted to do something a little bit different this year, but I can link that chewy ginger snap recipe down below. The same one that I was talking about, if you wanted to decorate that with a snowflake, that would be really beautiful. The contrast of the dark kind of molasses cookie with a white chocolate snowflake, I think would look really, really beautiful. This just makes me so incredibly happy. I don't know what it is. The festivity of this is just so fun. What I should have done before I decorated these cookies was get my butter in the oven to melt for the chocolate chipless cookies, because the butter is supposed to melt but not be hot. So we need 1 stick of butter for this next recipe, and I'm gonna make it correctly this time. So I'm just gonna get this in this bowl, pop it in the microwave, and let's set it for 30 seconds. And while that's microwaving, let's get these in the oven and set the timer for 10 minutes. Okay, this butter is probably melted enough. Before we start on the next recipe, I do need my mixer to make it. I've got a little bit of cookie dough left in here, probably enough for, let me get a cookie sheet. Four cookies maybe. So I'm not gonna bake these. I'm going to just get this on this extra cookie sheet. I ran out of M&Ms anyway. So we'll just get these cookies on here, and then I'm gonna pop these in the freezer, and then I can just make these for my family whenever we need a little sweet treat, because all the cookies I'm baking will be heading out of the house, and so it'll be nice just to have a couple cookie dough balls in the freezer for a random Tuesday night. It looks like I'm gonna get 6 cookies out of this. For this chocolate-less cookie, chocolate chipless cookie, I am not going to rinse the bowl out because it's basically a chocolate chip cookie without the chocolate chips. So I can just go ahead and get our butter that we melted that's not super hot right into this bowl. And it's basically the same ingredients, so I'm not worried about making sure that, you know, I have a little bit of the previous cookie dough in this recipe. So now we need brown sugar, white sugar. We're gonna mix this together. This recipe calls for 1 whole egg and then 1 egg yolk. So we're gonna get that in here and we'll scrape down the sides of the bowl, you know the drill, and then we'll put the rest of our ingredients in. I am so excited to get to this on this day. We celebrated with my side of the family Thanksgiving 2 weeks early. So it's felt like forever getting to get to all these Christmas things, and I'm so excited this season is here. I love the sounds, the smells, the sights that this time of year brings. Because this recipe does not call for a weighted measurement of the flour, I'm going to fluff my flour a little bit so it's not quite as compacted before I go to weigh or measure it out, so we don't get too much flour in our recipe. So I'm going to add 1 3/4 cups of flour, salt, 1 teaspoon cornstarch, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Mix that to combine. So this cookie dough came together quicker than it took for our other cookies to cook in the oven. I just pulled these cookies out of the oven, and we need our oven at a cooler temperature. So I'm going to get it set to 325. And just look how delicious these look. So I'm going to let them finish cooking on this cookie sheet. They're still very, very soft. I need these cookie sheets for the next couple recipes we're making, so I'm going to get these cookies off the sheets. Something that's really interesting that I can tell now cooking the exact same cookie recipe in both my ovens. This oven is a propane oven. My other oven is an electric oven. I always thought my propane oven ran hotter than my electric oven, but these cookies, the ones with kind of the darker around the outside, these are the ones in my electric oven, and the ones that don't have as much of the darkness like these ones were in my propane oven. And so I think my electric oven actually runs hotter than my propane oven. I just got my KitchenAid bowl rinsed out. This next recipe is probably, this and the M&Ms are going to be the 2 easiest recipes we're making today when it comes to making the cookie and the decorations. The other recipes all have an extra step when it comes to decorating, and I wanted to kind of give myself some fun decorating cookies, but I also wanted to give myself some ones that were really easy, and as soon as they were baked, they were decorated. They didn't need an extra step. And so if you are busy, but you need some quick festive cookies, this recipe or the M&M one would be really good ones, because once they're baked, they're done. They don't need any extra. But I happen to have a little bit of time today so that I can actually make some of the next 2 cookies that have a little bit extra festivity that we're gonna add so that they're super, super cute. So now I just added butter to my mixer. And now we're gonna add, I've got my recipe here. This recipe is fantastic. I have made this recipe before. It's soft and chewy sugar cookies, but I haven't done the festive part to it before. So this part is gonna be new, but the actual cookie dough recipe is fantastic and it freezes beautifully. Our fourth cookie dough is done. We need to heat this oven back to 350 for the next 3 recipes. So that should give me just enough time to get these cookies shaped. I'm going to just do like I did before, where I'm going to get them all out of the mixer. I'll roll them, and then we will roll them in our festive sprinkles. That one recipe made exactly 2 cookie sheets worth of cookies. So this here is where you could get really creative. You could decorate them for a birthday with just regular sprinkles. The original recipe is written just to use, ooh, I should put that closer, white sugar, but I thought it'd be fun to use these red, green, and white sprinkles to make it a little bit more festive. But you could do blue and white for Hanukkah, or purple and orange for Halloween, and I definitely do not have enough sprinkles, I don't think. So maybe we'll do some in this kind of sprinkles, and then I do have some other sprinkles that we could pull out. I don't know why, but I did not anticipate how many sprinkles it would take to cover one batch of cookies. I just assumed 1 jar would be enough. Maybe I could do some just in sugar in case people don't like sprinkles. And then we do need to flatten these out a little bit to encourage them to flatten in the oven. For future reference, 1 jar of sprinkles, just a standard size jar of sprinkles, does 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 2 tablespoon cookies. So now I have to decide what I'm going to do with the rest of them, because I only have this much left, which I don't think is quite enough. Well, maybe I could get 1 more cookie. I just went and looked in my baking stash, and I've got some green sugar, so we can use this green sugar as sprinkles. I bought these sprinkles last year, and my sister, I was over at her house the other day, and she was doing some decorating for my niece. I think we'll probably use all of this, so I'm gonna pour all that in there. And she found a company, I can link the company down below, where they don't use artificial colors for their sprinkles. And so I am just gonna use what I have, but I think for next year, I'm gonna see if I can get some Christmas sprinkles that don't have any artificial coloring in them for my holiday baking. But I'm just gonna use up what I have that I bought last year. And I think these are cute. I wonder, because I like to do baking at Valentine's Day too. I do an annual cookie and candy box for my loved ones. I like to go drop yummy baked treats like cookies and homemade candies at Valentine's Day. And so maybe I'll have to look to see if I can find some red and pink sprinkles for Valentine's Day from that brand. I just got out the sugar cookies from the oven. They look absolutely perfect. And I realized, because I'm setting up for the next 2 recipes, and they call for baking powder, not baking soda, and that had me thinking, what did these sugar cookies call for? And they call for baking powder, not baking soda. I use baking soda, but they look absolutely perfect. I think they baked up beautifully. So I don't think it hurt them at all that they had the wrong leavening agent in them. So we're just gonna keep moving forward. And I went ahead and rinsed out my bowl. I'm really excited about these next 2 recipes. They are ones that I have never made before. And they call for, I'm just reaching for my butter, some ingredients that I've never put in cookies before. And one of my favorite all-time cooks, who has been a huge inspiration to me growing up, was the Barefoot Contessa, and is the Barefoot Contessa. I think she is a fabulous cook. I love her style of cooking, really simple, use the best ingredients you can, and make things from scratch if you can, things like chicken broth. And anyway, she's just always been so inspirational to me. And she always said whenever she makes anything with chocolate to add a little espresso powder or instant coffee or coffee in general and vanilla. Well, I have never done that before. I've never actually made any of her chocolate recipes before. This isn't her recipe, but it calls for some espresso powder. But before we can add the espresso powder, we need to cream together butter, which I softened, and brown sugar. Now, this brown sugar says it needs to be packed, and we need to put in, I'm gonna double check the recipe. It says you can use light or dark, and you need 3/4 cup of packed brown sugar. And I don't know about you, but whenever a recipe calls for brown sugar, I always assume it should be packed, whether the recipe states that or not. I don't know if that's something that I should assume or not, but that is usually what I assume. So now I'm gonna get the paddle attachment on here. The next 2 recipes do not give weights for the dry ingredients, so I'm going to fluff my flour again and try to get it nice and fluffy so I don't add too much flour. So we're gonna add our flour next, and I can go ahead and just add it directly to the mixer because we don't need to weigh it. Now we're gonna add our instant espresso powder. I am going to need to sift the cocoa powder because my cocoa powder does have some lumps in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right into the mixer. This is where things go wrong for me. The recipe calls for 1 3/4 cup of flour, and then right underneath it, it calls for the cocoa powder. And I read 3/4 cup cocoa powder, but that was not correct. I have trouble from here on out with this recipe, and it's because I just saw that I added 3/4 cup of cocoa powder, not 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. We have one more ingredient to add, but we're gonna mix these ingredients together first, as we need to prepare some Andes mince to go into the cookies. So I'm gonna go ahead and unwrap a couple of these. We need Andes mince to go inside the cookies, plus we need Andes mince to decorate the cookies. So I am opening up quite a few of them. This pile here is going to be for decoration, so I'm not gonna chop those up. But this pile here, I'm gonna grab myself a chef's knife, and I'm just gonna roughly chop these mince. And these are gonna go directly into our cookie dough. This is why I didn't wanna over mix the cookie dough, because I knew that we were gonna be adding this goodness to it. Oh my goodness, I can actually smell that slight amount of espresso powder in that dough, and that smells incredible. So we're gonna get those in there. And then it says we also need to add a few chocolate chips, which is about all I have. So we're just gonna add some chocolate chips. I have more downstairs, but I don't think we need to add any more of those. I'm gonna get all this mixed together nicely. I need my cookie sheets, so we can go ahead. These cookies are done and they're fully decorated, so we can get these cookies onto our serving platter. It's basically musical cookies around here. Actually, these are basically cool as well, so I think I could get these cookies onto this serving platter. wonder if we could do every other, like green, sprinkle. Oh yeah, that's cute. Now that we've got our cookie sheets back, we can go ahead and scoop out our Andes Mints chocolate cookies, get these baking. Then we can start on our peppermint cookies. And we also need to frost our eggnog cookies. And I want to do that soon because I want that frosting to harden. And we need to put our snowflakes still on our chocolate-less cookies. I, at this point, have no idea that I've completely messed up this cookie dough, and I'm about to be sorely disappointed. We move forward, we keep going, we made enough cookies that it's going to be totally fine, but I feel bad for my past self knowing, oh no, you're about to be very disappointed. These recipes are working out perfect for making exactly 2 cookie sheets worth of cookies, which is really nice. These are extra large cookie sheets. The next recipe is a chocolate-based cookie as well, and so that's why I wanted to do this in this order, so I wouldn't have to wash out my mixing bowl again. I can just use it for the final recipe, and then we can start decorating. I was just rereading the next recipe because I knew that I needed to go grab one more ingredient, which is our peppermint extract. These are going to be the peppermint cookies. And it's almost exactly, well, it's exactly the same base cookie recipe as the last one we just did, but we are going to flavor it a little bit different. We're going to decorate it completely different. So we're going to start with, I got to grab it out of the microwave. I needed to melt a little bit more, soften a little bit more butter. And I'm glad I did it in this order because we're gonna be putting peppermint extract in this dough, and I wouldn't want that in, well, I guess mint and peppermint, pretty similar. It would have been probably just fine. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get our brown sugar in here. So I looked into the future, and I do end up putting 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder in this recipe as well. I'm not sure why that didn't jog my thinking as, wow, that seems like a lot of cocoa powder in one cookie dough recipe, but it didn't. We were just chugging along and moving forward, and I was excited about these 2 recipes. We do end up decorating them so you can see what they're supposed to look like. They just are very dry. They have really good flavor, and so I really should, when I have a little bit more time, I should really come back and try these recipes again because they have fantastic reviews, and I know that it's just right here, you're gonna see. This is so sad. I am about to add 3/4 of a cup of cocoa again, and when you are seeing yourself do something and you are just like, no, it is a little bit sad, but it's okay. And a little bit about me, I am super dyslexic, and so if I get anything made correctly and the recipe is followed correctly, that is a win in my book. So the fact that we made 6 recipes today and 4 out of the 6 turned out perfectly, I'm considering that a win for today's baking experience. Like I mentioned, these taste really good. You need a glass of milk. Josh tried them and he was like, you need a glass of milk. So, okay, so if you look at it differently, look at it more of like a tea cookie or a biscotti. It's something where, you want the cookie to be dry, then maybe it's not so bad. But I do need to try these recipes again. I was just taking a minute to kind of clean up. I've got most of the things put away. I need to wipe all the counters down, but I think our cookies are done. Chocolate cookies are always so hard to know when they're done. I think they're done because they smell really good. They didn't flatten out very much. When I look at the picture, they flattened out quite a bit. And so I'm not sure why they didn't flatten out, but they look really cute. So these need one of these Andes Mints put on the top, but it says that you need to wait until they cool or the mint will completely melt. So I'm just gonna get these out of the oven and then I'm gonna keep cleaning. I hope the next batch actually flattens a little bit because of how we're gonna decorate them. They will be cuter if they flatten out a little bit, but these smell really delicious. So I'm just gonna set these on the counter, let them cool while I finish cleaning up my mess here. And then we can have a clean kitchen before we start decorating the cookies. These have cooled down quite a bit, so I think I want to go ahead and get my mints put in there before they completely cool. I did double check the recipe to make sure I made these correctly. It's at this point that I'm very much questioning what I did, because the dough is so dry and they don't look anything like the picture. And you and I now know what happened, but at this point I'm just starting to realize there is something amiss here. Friend, I think I know what I did wrong when it comes to these cookies. I think I would have to go back and watch. I'm pretty sure I added 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder instead of a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, because when I was scooping out the peppermint ones that we're gonna dip in white chocolate and sprinkle with peppermint patties, I was like, this cookie dough is not right. Those ones taste good. I tasted them. They just don't have that like soft, chewy texture that I like out of a cookie. So we're gonna have plenty of cookies. So I've got the last cookies in the oven. We're gonna go ahead and decorate our eggnog cookies and what will be our snowflake cookies. That's what happens sometimes when you make new recipes. So that's why I wanted to make some recipes that I've made before and some that were new, so that we can have ones that hopefully will turn out. And we do. We've got lots of ones that are turning out just perfect. So I've got white chocolate because we need these for the ones we're gonna dip, plus our what will be snowflake cookies. I'm gonna melt this white chocolate in the microwave because there's no reason to get a double boiler out. The way I like to microwave or melt chocolate in the microwave is just every 30 seconds, I'll take it out, stir it, 30 seconds, take it out, stir it. Once there's just a few chunks left and most of it's melted, I let the residual heat melt the rest. And I'm looking at these cookies. This is the new batch I made, and they still are not spreading out like I would like to see. So I don't know. I'm not the expert baker. I'm working on building my skills when it comes to baking, and especially cookies, because I think cookies are one of the hardest baked items for me to have a really good turnout and texture. That's why I love this recipe so much. I love my brown butter chocolate chip cookies so much. I am really excited with how my snowflakes, soon to be snowflakes, that texture looks really good as well. So I'm working on building my skills. I'm going to pipe, oh wow, this white chocolate is melting quicker than regular chocolate does. Forgot what I was saying. I'm gonna get these out of the oven. I don't know if these ones are turning out the way I wanted them to either. No big deal. I am gonna go ahead and bake up the rest of these M&M ones, just because 2 of my recipes are little question marks. Our white chocolate is now done. You can see how there's still a little bit of white chocolate chunks in there. I'm just letting it sit and kind of letting that residual heat melt the final bit of it, because I don't want to risk burning this. So what inspired this was my gingerbread spider web cookies that I did. And I think that you could make those spider web the gingerbread cookies with a snowflake as well if you want a little bit more contrast. This is not going to have a ton of contrast, but I think it's still going to be super cute. Just working on cutting a little hole there. So every snowflake is different in nature. So every snowflake I make on these cookies is going to look a little different. I think these turned out absolutely adorable. I'm so happy with these. So happy with them. All right, so now we need to see this is how these ones turned out. They're almost cake-like. So we still can decorate these, but we need to prep some peppermints before we can dip those in chocolate. I have some peppermint candies here that I need to prep. I think you can buy crushed peppermint, but I don't have that. I actually have these already, so we're just gonna go ahead and open these and crush them. So here we have our melted white chocolate, and the way I'm gonna do this is dip our cookie in the white chocolate and then dip it in our crushed candy. And there is our cookie. I'm gonna pop these in the freezer just for a few minutes while the chocolate hardens, and we will get what we need out to decorate the eggnog cookies. I'm rereading the recipe for the eggnog cookies and the glaze that goes along with it. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and skip this. And what I'm gonna do instead of this, I'm gonna decorate these eggnog cookies, but I have a little leftover white chocolate. I don't wanna waste that. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and decorate these eggnog cookies with a little bit of white chocolate, and then I will top it with a little bit of nutmeg, just like you would with a eggnog latte or an eggnog beverage. I think these turned out so cute. I will definitely make these again for a really unique holiday cookie. And I'm super happy with the white chocolate. I liked the kind of texture, the creaminess of the white chocolate added, and then the fresh nutmeg. My goodness, was that a brightness that really just took it over the top. So if you don't like nutmeg, you could probably leave it off or sprinkle with cinnamon. I'm gonna pop these in the freezer until the chocolate hardens. We did it. I set out to do 6 recipes and we got all 6 recipes done. Sometimes when I plan that many, I don't get to all of them. We got to all of them, and I'm glad we did, because I last minute decided to make the eggnog ones, which are so delicious. And I'm glad I did, because these two, they taste good, but the texture is all off. This kind of chewy, flat texture on a cookie is my favorite texture on a cookie. And so that's why I'm really happy with how this recipe turned out, this recipe, and this one. These two, I am going to need to, when I watch this back, I will know probably what I did wrong. And I'm sure a lot of you already caught what I did wrong. So thank you so much for being here along the journey. When we have successes, we have flops, and it's just fun getting in the kitchen, experimenting, trying some new recipes for the holidays. I love getting in the kitchen and seeing if we can find some new favorites. I know that because last time we made a couple of these, I now love these 2 cookie recipes. That is a new favorite recipe, and so it's just so fun. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend time with me in my kitchen. If you enjoyed seeing how these holiday cookies turned out, I can put a couple other holiday cooking videos here you can go enjoy between now and my next upload. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so enjoying the holiday, and I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.